let's just go. Yeah, this is well, hey, welcome. This is like our team that we started with just over 8 hours ago on Connected Educator Appreciation Day, and we've all made it. All of us have been here for 8 hours. And the amazing thing that we realized as we were chatting in the background was we pulled this off. None of the 4 of us have ever met in person before, which is pretty incredible to think that 4 people use technology to connect. Oh, here's Stacy's back. She wants to be a panelist. We're going to make her a panelist. Hold on. Just give me a second here. I'm gonna get you in, Stacy. But just, I think that really just goes to show the what technology can do when you use it the right way. When you use it as an opportunity to connect purposely with people, what's possible. And it doesn't have to be anything that existed before. It's just something that can be an idea that can turn into a collaboration, that can turn into something that brings this many people from around the world. I told the last panel when we closed out after we stopped recording that it's been amazing to me that I got to see the sunrise in Australia. I got to see the sunset in Scotland, and now I'm starting to see it set here in Tampa, Florida. So it has been just like this incredible experience. And I mean, as somebody who would somewhat be the outsider in this whole day, as far as not being in education, it truly has been a very much a learning experience for me. So I'm learning that you guys call that professional development. Now I know, or professional learning, right? Professional learning network and professional development. And so I'm learning all these terms that I do all the time anyway. I just didn't know what they were called. I didn't know they had a term to them. So
I didn't know any of the terms because nobody in Croatia uses the abbreviations. Americans, boy, you Americans, you love them. So every conference I go to, I secretly Google all the time. The thing is, every single abbreviation has at least 2 or 3 explanation depending on the, whether it's education or producing cars, or it takes time to get to know what you're talking about.
Listen, that is so true. And I just want to say it's totally off topic, but I'm doing a presentation someplace on Tuesday, and they have not told me what I'm supposed to talk about yet. So
that's so fun. Wow.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm just going to show up. I'll just press play and I'll say something.
But that's how much faith they have in your skills, Stacy. So you got this.
I am thinking of it that way, but I'm not sure. But so I'm Googling for the conference, because usually conferences have a website, right? And I'm reading through, so I find the acronym. It was NCACTE, and I click on the conference. It's coming up in the fall, and I'm reading all these things, and I'm thinking, what are these people talking about? I have no idea. It turns out it had nothing to. It was like you said, like an acronym that had a completely other use other than what we were talking about in education. So I'm not going there because, it's in Texas, and right, Texas, yay. So anyways, I just wanted to be a panelist because I wanted to be able to say straight to you guys that, Sarah and I were so busy. She's got little kids, and I travel all over the place, and I haven't figured out how to manage my life. And so if it wasn't for Tim and Michael keeping us on track and making us do things that we were like, oh my gosh, it's 9 o'clock, I better do this. But it all came together, and it was great. So I just appreciate it so much. You have no idea. It's been awesome. So thank you guys.
No, thank you. It's really, just one of these things that, it was an idea that was, started by, William Jenkins. I had been very active in community management and still am, but I had done a community manager appreciation day that was a 24-hour hangout, and he met me through there. He came up with, what if we could do this for Connected Educators? Been talking about it for a couple of years. This year we started talking about it in reality. He was working with Andrea Tolley, who was part of our group, and then she was really busy with her stuff, and William had to back out for some personal reasons. And it was just like the four of us just came together and we're like, you know what? This is like, it's so easy. Let's just do it. And not easy. I shouldn't say easy.
No,
It
that's
just,
the wrong word.
the four of us, how we came together and connected with each other was easy.
That was easy, yeah. The whole process was amazingly fluid, though, and it was amazingly organic.
Yeah.
How
It is.
just things locked in, and how they just built upon. Like, we start with a really good foundation, and that was the core. With a good foundation, things just what's it? It's the baseball game in the States. If you build it, they will come. That's what happened.
Field of Dreams. Yep.
That's the one. That's what happened. It was there for it. My big question is, how big's that bottle, Ian? You've been drinking for, I don't know, hours now, man. It's awesome. I love this. I'm going to buy this whiskey.
I just saved myself to just before that last session started, and it's a very good Isle of Malt whiskey.
I'm going there.
Listen,
Okay.
I know-
when you did that, I showed that to my husband. I'm like, hey, look who I'm learning with this afternoon. And he's like, yeah, thumbs up to Ian. We love him.
Ian, what I really want to know is, I know you got the bottle there, but how do you keep your ice cube in there?
Ice cube, two mentioned ice cube and whiskey, sacrilege.
You get granite cubes. Granite cubes. Is that what you have? I have granite cubes in my freezer. They're great.
That whiskey I lived on an island in 9 distilleries, is world famous for whiskey. The school I was deputy head in was 200 metres from Bowmore Distillery, and it was really handy. Ice makes oil go more viscous. Whiskey flavour is the oil in the whiskey, so therefore if you put ice in it, it makes the flavours just change completely. A little bit of water, that's all you need.
And my thought with the ice is that ice dilutes it, and I don't want that to happen. Come on. So my wife bought a whiskey set, and in the set comes granite cubes. You stick the granite cubes in the freezer, and it keeps the whiskey cold.
Yep.
Now, who thought you were going to come into a Connected Educator Appreciation Day and talk about whiskey and the best way to drink it and keep it cool?
I'm sure there are some teachers out there that would appreciate this conversation.
I'm sure there are.
Wouldn't want to put it out there, so you're welcome.
Yeah, you will. I ran a teach meet on Isla in a distillery. I thought I would maybe get 20 people who came. I had 150 turned up.
It's a thing. It's definitely a thing.
And we held it in a distillery, and the distillery gave us 3 bottles of whiskey. We have no idea what we talked about. But we solved every problem in the world.
Oh.
Okay, well, I'm just going to jump in really quick and just say, like Tim said, sorry, guys, I'm changing the subject here.
Oh,
but,
Party pooper.
I know. Everybody has to see it, you know? It's just whatever. Yeah, no, I just have to say that this day has been awesome because I have seen this evolve throughout the past couple of months. And if you guys were on at the beginning, like I said, we just ended EdChange Global this summer, and then I kind of just jumped right into this. So in the past, I don't even know what month, like 3 months, to see all this evolve and happen, and this day to come out of it has been absolutely incredible. And kudos to the team for everything with your work on the website, Vodka and Michael, your organizing, Tim, and just pulling all these amazing people together to host these sessions and be panelists. Like every single session, I was just sitting over here like shaking my head the whole time, and I was just like, this is awesome. So I loved it, and the lack of technology issues, I think the only technology issues we had that we are aware of was when Michael had an issue with Wi-Fi, and I got kicked out of the session. So if the hosts are the ones that are having the issues, then everything else was seamless in my mind, and I you guys just did an incredible job with everything.
It wasn't Wi-Fi. The house is wired, and the whole house went down.
Oh,
I think what was happening, because my son's watching Netflix, my daughter's playing some online game, and I'm streaming video. I think we went over our calf or something, and Virgil's like, hey, these guys are getting lots of action there. I think something's going wrong. And so then they cut me off, which is just like nuts. That's what happened. So,
That's what you did.
But we
Well,
prevailed.
Yeah, I can tell you that there's one thing, and I remember I shared this with Latka, Cassie, and Michael about 2 weeks ago or a week and a half ago. You know, you put so much work and effort into what you're planning on doing, and you get to a certain point and you're like, there's only so much we can do. This was all something that we were just volunteering. And I said, you know what? Let's not pressure ourselves anymore. It's going to be what it's going to be. Anybody that's watching is only going to experience what we present. If we tell them, oh, we planned this, I wish this would have happened, everybody would have came across and been like, oh man, I really would have wanted that, and so that's how this whole day went, this is the first time we've done like multiple webinars like back to back using Zoom. And what I didn't know is we're trying to do this because it's all like out of our own pockets that we're doing this, right? And so, there is a cost for doing Zoom. There's a cost for building a website. There's a cost for all these things. So it's like, we're doing it. We're trying to do it on the cheapest way that we can do it. So I got the cheapest webinar plan and they said, oh yeah, you can do as many webinars as you want. Well, they didn't tell me that you can't do 2 at the same time. So like, our original plan was I was going to jump off, Michael was going to stay on until the very end, and then I was going to start the other one 15 minutes in advance, and then we were going to move forward. Well, we learned after the first hour that wasn't working. So by the second hour, we had it down that we needed to end at least 5 minutes early, get the next session on, and from there, it worked so smooth. It was exactly what it was supposed to be. And I'm sure as far as anybody watching, nobody knew what was happening. Nobody knew that we went through that.
So what was the
as a brand new presenter that where with that time constraint and making sure that we ended early, but the six questions, and I was watching the time and I was thinking, just to make sure that everybody had a chance to say what they needed to say, but we also didn't shortchange anything, all that kind of stuff. But the 6 questions seemed to naturally fit in the time frame. Yeah. So that worked out pretty well. And if you end up with extra time, usually your panelists and your hosts, we can talk. We can definitely stretch it. So it was a case where I just wanted to make sure that that it fit, but that, I think Michael, when he was trying to make Sarah and I finally cough up our questions, which we were holding on to for whatever reason, we did not want to release the information. Top secret.
The thing is, you gave me 6 questions, or Sarah gave me 6, and the other one gave me 5. So I had 11 questions to kind of pare down to 6. Come on. You got 4 days here? 4 days. The thing is, too, I'm across in Poland with my kids with an iPad doing all the stuff for your questions, too, for the dental checks. So I'm flying in one day. We're one day in Poland. We fly back the next day. And in the middle of that stuff, I'm editing your questions. So there you go, yeah?
You pulled it. I'm going to tell you, when I say thank you, you kept it, because Sarah, we were whatever reason, this period of time super busy. I know everybody's busy, but getting us and just kind of getting us to get it together so that we could make it happen. So corralling a bunch of panelists, that's a talent.
I wish to thank Latka. Because Latka did this basically on her own for the last 4 weeks, 5 weeks. She kept saying, is this okay? Yeah, that's fine. Is this okay? I started a new job 6 weeks ago, so I was like, yeah, that's fine.
That's decision making at our house too. I just served the ideas for my husband. He just goes, yeah, that's okay.
That's fine.
Of course, I'm fine with that.
It's funny. I've learned this in so many things that I've done, and it's this thing that everybody raises their hand and says they want to do stuff. And the reality of the matter, or the fact, is that only a few people out of all the people that raise their hand are actually going to do something. And so it's really about, like, how do you find those people, right? And that's who's here. That's who showed up today, is the people that said they wanted to do something and actually did it. And that means a lot. And this is just like building the foundation. We didn't come across with any goals other than pulling this off. That was our goal, is to do 8 hours. It wasn't, we needed to get this many people watching. We didn't need this many views. We didn't need to get a sponsor that paid this much money. We didn't need any of that. It was because if we did that, our focus wouldn't have been on what it was supposed to be, which was all of you being here today.
I'm very happy after my experience with Change Global, where they were used to really huge numbers of audience. And it was me trying to convince them that it's the smaller group that is more efficient. Doesn't matter that zillions of people are looking at some new ideas if they're not implementing them and continuing the conversation. So this was a completely different, stress-free thing that we would just focus on what we want to do, and it just happened because of that.
I forget which panel I was listening to, and I even made a comment in the chat, but somebody said we need more play in the classroom, and I said we need more play in life. You know, I mean, why are we stressing ourselves out and worrying about what we need to do?
Yes.
There's enough stuff that we have to worry about. Like, for the stuff that we have a choice, let's make it fun. Let's enjoy it.
Yeah,
Exactly.
people need time. They definitely do. And I think I'm going to say, I heard that comment and I tried to listen all day long. But, you know, the idea of just we're constantly rushing. We have to rush through our content. We have to rush to the next meeting. We have to contact 5,522 parents and, you know, just all those things. And so this was a chance to just sit back and, you know, have it be slightly more relaxed. So it's really good.
Well, I know we don't want to spend too much time here because all of us are kind of exhausted. But what I would really love to do is maybe each one of us here just maybe share like one thing that you really took away from today that really resonated with you. And you know, just it can be something that you heard, something that you just realized, just anything that popped out as far as your favorite moment from today that really made an impact. Wants to go? Cassie?
I think that my biggest takeaway is trust, and what I need to do is to give others trust that they deserve, and give others trust that I expect them to give to me. That's my daughter, yeah.
I think come in and say hi.
She's saying, okay, it's fine, one way or something. I think the biggest thing for me was that I had a worry, and the worry was that people aren't going to do what they say they're going to do. And at the end of it, I mean, when you've got people in 6 of the 7 continents of the world agreeing to take part in this, you can't always keep your finger on everyone. It's just impossible. But it was a case for me being a teacher in a classroom, being a teacher in a school, and knowing in the school, if a person says they'll do it, you regularly have to check and see that they're going to do it. And because they're in the same physical space as you, you can do it regularly, once a week or once every few days. This here for me was a different level of giving away responsibility and then being content with them being adult enough, responsible enough to carry the burden that they said that they'll do. So coming to this last couple of days and getting just a couple of emails, this is great, thanks very much. It's such a relief to have that just quick communication, but then to see this event that was again planned over just a few months, which is insane, but to see it come together with such precision, with such exactness, because we made a good foundation. It was really nice for things to just work. I feel the trust I feel for everyone here and the others who are panelists or hosts. It's great, and I've not had, I think, such a positive experience giving that away to people before. So I feel good about that.
I'm going to jump in real quick because I was going to say, I was thinking of how I would say it, but honestly, I'm going to say the same thing that you said, Michael, in terms of trust, because for me personally, that's something that I have struggled with as an organizer of a different event, trusting that other people will do what they say. But this time kind of just watching as all of this unfolded and more so being in the background. But like it's let me put trust into the fact that things will just work out, but also trust in that Tim, who, as he said, he's not naturally from the education world, he trusted us, which is funny to me in that he trusted me and Vladka, and the two of us together is just, it's great. It's a great combination. Don't get me wrong, but it's just funny because we're a mess. All of us are a mess together. But he trusted us and he put this in our hands, and like, you know, just seeing the things that came out of it. And then also another aspect of trust to me that I've learned today in all the sessions is that we as educators have to trust other teachers and our students and other educators. You know, they have to have trust in us, and we have to trust in them as well, as we try to empower them to better themselves in all of the things that, you know, everyone was talking about in their sessions today. So trust in many different ways, but I think trust is definitely a key in all of this just working and happening, and we just have to have it in the relationships that we have with other people in many different areas. So
I think, you know, one thing that you or Michael didn't say, and I know I wrote that my LinkedIn post about this, is, you know, the trust factor is huge, but you're allowing yourself to trust others when you trust yourself. And you shouldn't discount the fact that you trusted yourself to do this and allow it to happen, because that's a huge thing that most people aren't capable of doing, is trusting themselves. And so, you know, there's a whole aspect of trust that comes into play that most people don't talk about. And, you know, we always talk about how we trust others, but in order to do that, we really need to trust ourselves.
I'm going to continue that theme of trust and relationships, because I think that is the key. One of the things I've learned working with Ewan McIntosh and Notosh over the last 2 years has been, how do you stop teachers being teachers? How do you stop them trying to control everything? How do you stop them? How often does that actually become the barrier? You know, when it's so organized and it's so precise that people don't have to think or don't have to engage. It just happens anyway. And actually, teachers are excellent at that. They're so good at that part. You may have noticed that you know, they want it precise. This has to happen then. This is what I'm planning. This is how it goes. But actually, what you have to do is create the space, create the ambience, the atmosphere, the culture, and let the conversation happen with some structure, but not a restriction.
Didn't you say that in our DM, Vladka, about Cassie? She gave the group the ball and let them play, right?
Yeah, they just played with it. Well, for me, it's you know, I'm a sense of relief that you know, I had this feeling for the first time that someone's covering my back all the time. Because this part of year, September for me, is always a 15-hour day straight, 15-hour day of work straight, and that means Saturdays and Sundays, every day. And I'd squeeze in the jobs that I had to do for this conference, but if I couldn't, someone else was covering it, you know. And all it took was just one. Could you? Sure, and it was done. And I just love that, you know, and it is a new thing for me. I run a school with 10 members of permanent staff, 20 outsourced teachers, and about 500 students. And they all depended on me. And I sometimes ask them, don't ask me to mother you. I'm your manager here. I'm the principal, the director. It's all mixed. I try to avoid micromanaging, and I leave it to them. But they're still always looking at me for the final decisions. This was such a relief that there's always someone covering some segment of this, and it's all done. So really, I cannot begin to describe the pleasure of working in such an efficient group where no one's afraid of responsibility, no one's afraid of backing out from somewhere which is not your strongest feature. Just love it, loved every minute of it.
So Nancy, you have something you want to share?
Yeah, sure. Hi, I think I met everybody here except maybe Vladka. I was a panelist in the last training teachers session, but I was just so impressed with the communication. You talk about empowering us to kind of get past our fear of doing this and take a risk. you kept that communication going, and my experience in other organizations is when the communication breaks down, so do a lot of other things. But you guys were amazing with that. I kind of arrived late to the game. I thought we were doing something else back in September. I was working with William Jenkins about an online ed camp, and maybe that'll happen somewhere down the line. But this was fabulous. I would love to be part of it in the future. So keep me on your email list.
Excellent.
Sounds good. Thank you. And Stacy, how about you?
I am struggling to decide what my one key takeaway is with this, but I'm gonna share from the point of view of somebody who was probably Michael's worst nightmare, where he kept on, telling us to do things and we weren't. We required numerous emails and things.
Oh, so you're the one Michael was messaging me about.
I could have been.
I'm glad it wasn't just me with Vladka.
And I'm just going to apologize. But let me just tell you, the thing about communication and community, right, is there are some groups, and I'm going to just pick out Flipgrid because they come to mind as a organization that has figured out a way to just be relentlessly communicative, and because of that, you can have periods of time where you're really busy and you only have a chance to like dip in. I'm gonna like tune in and look, and then I gotta go, and then I'm gonna look, and then I'm gonna go, that kind of thing. But because they are so welcoming and say everything to everybody all the time in as many ways as possible, you get that, you can do that. You can have a busy period of time and still get it. And I feel like this group has done that because Sarah and I were super busy but we would read things, and you don't know that because you can't tell when we're reading something because we don't, unless we reply. So, so we were knowing, but we just, and then because the people who were involved were people who would do what they said they were going to do, right? And were, versatile and flexible and all that kind of stuff. For us, at least, it just came together, and we had a great time, and we felt like, we could have talked for another hour about all of our topics and all that sort of thing. I hope everybody else had as good a time as we did, but
your panel was cool. I liked your panel a lot.
Yeah, the whole thing came together, and we had never met each other before. I was so impressed with how people were, from everywhere in the chat, from all over the place, and then on the panel, and we all had the same things, that we all had the same struggles, the same challenges, the same approaches, the same.
I love that too.
It was so cool. So.
I say this a lot in community building. It's so easy to see the differences that we have, but when we start looking for what we have in common, that's what brings us together. And I think that's what this was all. By design, we specifically tried to make each panel have representatives from different cultures, different backgrounds, different countries, so that we could have different perspectives. We didn't want everybody to come in and say, yes, yes, yeah. You ask a question, one person answers, and the next four panelists are, oh yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. I agree with that. That's not a good discussion. That's not a conversation. And so that was definitely by design. So thank you for sharing.
It's funny too about how some of the answers had a similar theme from a different perspective, and that made it a totally different answer, despite having the same end goal. It was lovely about how connected the answers were oftentimes, and how of a similar vein they were, despite not being carbon copies. That was really nice.
Yep.
And even when things come up that you weren't expecting, like 3 fire engines pulling up outside your block of flats.
That's interesting, yeah.
In the last 10 minutes of your session, you posted with Vladka.
Well, we still don't have any proof that there actually was a fire alarm.
I did. Look on Twitter. There is a picture of 3 fire engines.
You better share that.
It's on Twitter.
That's what the mute button's for.
Yeah. I didn't share any emails with you, Vladka. Now I gotta go. I already gave you 15 minutes of glory.
It's almost time for test for the clues. I'm gonna get whiskey.
Yeah, he's back with the bottle, all happy and cheerful.
So one thing I think I'm gonna want to go because my wife and our friend are waiting downstairs to go out to dinner with me. And I haven't eaten, but we all talked about how little we've eaten today and how bad we've eaten if we did have anything. But one thing that I would ask everybody, we're gonna send out an email following up in a day or two. We're gonna breathe first, but it's going to ask some questions. And one thing, and this is it specifically for, Cassie, Vladka, and Michael, because we've gone through all this, in the last couple months, is I want you to, and anybody that was part of this, just think of, if you could change one thing for next year, what would it be? Because while it's fresh in our minds, it's so much easier than coming back in a week and saying, oh yeah, I know there was something that I would have changed, but I forgot what it was. So, really think about it now and I already have been writing notes down all throughout the day about things that I would do different. So really yeah. So, I mean, I'm not saying this was bad.
Everything.
Pages and pages.
No, it's just like 4 bullet points, but but if we all have 4 different bullet points, right, that helps us build on next year and make it easier. And I love what Stacy was saying about the communication. A lot of that was coming from us, but I mean, the thing I loved is people didn't even realize all those Zoom emails I just set up, they do that automatically. You get the week's notice, you get the day's notice, you get the hour's notice with your link. So it makes it seem like I'm over communicating, but all I did was set that up at the beginning and the system did that. So what things like that, what can we do to automate the process that can be automated, that doesn't have to be personal, to make it so that we can stay in touch, to make it so that we can provide more assistance in the next year when people have questions. I mean, that was the earliest time for me, is I was struggling through how our workflow was going. At the same time, people were asking me questions. At the same time, I was supposed to be posting the questions on social media. At the same time, I was supposed to be getting this out. And thankfully, this is how our team works, right? Michael just started tweeting out so much that he got blocked by Twitter. He couldn't tweet out anymore, and then Cassie jumped out, and it was just so amazing how it just worked out. But imagine next year, if we had all of our questions pre-planned and scheduled out on Twitter, so we didn't have to worry about posting anything when the person did it. And
I did that this morning. I just want to let you know. I'm like, oh man, it's Saturday. I better get that stuff on YouTube.
Yeah, well, I thought about it about
awesome graphics.
So, but things like that. Those are the types of things I'm talking about. And from a panelist and a host perspective, what would from your perspective, what would make it better next year? What could we do that would be a little bit different? Because I think it's really going to help us, with a small team, and hopefully it'll grow a little bit for next year, and we'll do some stuff in between. But what can we do to really, make this a lot easier to do more with not adding more resources? And I think that's the key, is how can we do that and still make it an experience that was just like today, where everybody came together and enjoyed themselves and learned and shared. I mean, that's what we want to create going forward. So.
I love it that we kept it simple and it worked like a charm. And put it on your bulletin list. The cheaper version of Zoom is enough.
Yeah.
Well, I think if we plan it a little bit and use some of your resources, and maybe don't do it under my personal account, we can probably get the education plan, which is for free, and and not have to worry about it.
Yeah, but still. I think nothing was over the top, and I loved it.
No.
I loved it that it was so modestly, planned out, and then it was so efficient, and I can't imagine getting more out of this. I mean, if you look at what we paid for everything, I think our total out-of-pocket cost was $500 US.
And see, let me just tell you, when we go do presentations to teachers in buildings and districts and things like that about, oh, you can do this and you can do that, the first thing they ask is, how much does it cost? And so if you can, really, this is modeling a way. I mean, the people in my chat were from Scotland, Canada, Nigeria, Croatia. I can't even list where everybody was from. So you can model with the free account an amazing experience that, like you said, so to me, the fact that it isn't some special account is actually better.
Yeah, we can definitely do that. I learned about a week before that they actually had an education plan because one of our co-hosts who wasn't able to make it today, she's doing some work with them, and she goes, "Oh, I can connect you with them. They have free plans for education." And I'm like, "Oh, this would have been nice to know like a month ago," you know? So, but no, so just think about it, you know, tonight or tomorrow if it's you're ready for bed right now. But just while it's fresh in our minds. And thank you all so much for being part of this. I just truly enjoyed it all.
You too. Thank you very much.
Thank you to the organisers. Much appreciated.
Thank you. Bye.
Good night, all.
Bye,
Good
guys.
night.